Hello, everyone. Good morning once again. After insightful session from Mr. Pankaj, we have Vinayak Hegde, who is Chief Technology Officer in Residence at the Microsoft for Startups. I think the screen says so. Vinayak comes with almost 2 decades of experience, mostly into technology space, and at Microsoft for Startups, he helps startups scale their technology and help CTOs implement their technology vision. I think today we're going to see the journey of Microsoft for startups and certain learnings from him. I think we can keep it as interactive as possible. Maybe after a short presentation, we can spend some time to address the questions from the audience. Over to you, Vinayak.
Sure. Thanks, Moni. I hope everyone can hear me all right.
Yes, we can hear you.
Cool. So quickly, Moni introduced me, but quickly I wanted to talk about my background. So, you can actually ask me questions based on, what my background as well. So I have about 2 decades of experience in technical leadership and individual contributor roles. And I have a technical expertise in distributed system, large scale networks and data systems. And also extensively worked on IoT and machine learning and AI systems. And when it comes to industry sectors, I worked in networking as part of CDN, which was Akamai. I worked on developer tools as part of Microsoft. And I have also worked in marketing tech, e-commerce, CRM, media, and smart mobility as part of Zoomcar. So I have worked in like 0 to 1, 1 to 10, and 10 to 100 kind of scenarios in scaling startup. And currently, I work as CTO in residence in a global role at Microsoft for Startups. So when I'm going to talk about the retrospective and learning, I've divided this into 3 parts. The first part will cover a brief introduction to accelerators and what are the different things that you can use to segment and talk about accelerators. And about 20 to 25 minutes I'm going to spend on the different programs and history of Microsoft for Startups. And finally, the last 15 minutes or 10 minutes or so I'll spend on the learnings and future. And the remaining time, about 15 minutes or so, what I will do is I will I can take any questions from the audience. Cool. So what is an accelerator, right? Like if you were to see a startup accelerator, it's mostly it is defined as a time-bound program that helps startups grow with a variety of resources such as go-to-market, product, sales, and technology. And then the startups and accelerators can actually grant or take equity, or may not, and they can be run by a variety of institutions, right? So variety of institutions could be like government backed. Examples are like Startup Chile, or in India we have Startup India. We are university backed accelerators also in India. For example, there is NSR Cell, which is part of IIM Bangalore, or CII, which is part of IIM Ahmedabad. And there are also private investor backed ones like Y Combinator, Khosla Lab, Axelor Ventures. um, largely in terms of the corporates, you can there are many such corporate accelerators also right now, such as Microsoft. There's NetApp. Flipkart also recently launched accelerator for the retail sector, and each of them focus on a certain set of businesses that kind of makes sense, and each of them have different expertise. Like for example, the university backed ones are the ones which have a predominantly student population, and they are looking at also sometimes patenting, taking some of the commercial research, commercialization of some of the research and the patents that have been developed in the university, right? We also have industry-based startups such as NASSCOM 10,000 startups, which is like fairly famous, and the social sector, which I will talk about a little bit later in my presentation. Also, you have the Ashoka Impact Program that happens. So a lot of the learnings that are taken from startups are also can be applied to the social sector as well. Now, when you look at accelerators, there's a wide range, right? And depending on what is their focus, what do they do, what kind of support they provide. So quickly, when you're evaluating an accelerator or you're setting up an accelerator, some of the things that you need to divide is for the effort that you're putting in, do you take equity or not? Or are you industries, or vertical industry vertical focus or a sector focused, right? For example, you might be if a corporate accelerator like Target or Flipkart or Walmart will have a very specific sector. For example, in this case, particular case, retail, or you can have a healthcare sector, and you can give grants or credits. That is possible in the case of Microsoft for accelerator. For example, Microsoft for startups, for example, we give away Azure credits as well as credits for Dynamics 365, some of the Office 365 license, as well as a Power Platform. And it is also possible, especially for some of the corporate accelerators, that they are the first customers, or they give business in the form of co-selling. And I'll talk a little bit more about co-selling and how we specifically do it for the startups that are in the program. And when we look at types of support, there is obviously different kinds. There's go-to-market, there's technology, marketing, sales, events. There is a mentorship for training both the founders as well as their teams. Many times there is also support for fundraising, right? Like for example, in the case of Y Combinator, right? Just the signaling effect or the demo days that are there are actually useful for startups to both get customers as well as to be able to fundraise, because that kind of is signaling for the quality of the startup, because they already gone through the basis and also have got that mentorship. And depending on how old accelerator, the quality of the alumni and the network of mentors that you have actually is a huge differentiator. A good example is like Y Combinator again, but also something like Seed Camp or Techstars, which are very famous and have a huge number of alumni. Another good example is like 500 startups, right? So again, like you have to look at what is this kind of businesses that you want to foster, what are your strengths, what are the sectors that you want to focus on, do you want to take equity? Many of the corporate accelerators do not take equity, but they actually do follow-on funding. Some of them also give grants, which are with no strings attached, which is great for a startup. And some of the government runs, for example, like the Startup Chile gives a grant, but they have certain conditions that you have to have some part of a business in Chile, for example, right? So again, there are different terms and conditions that kind of define different kinds of accelerators. So briefly, what I'll do is I'll talk about the journey for Microsoft for startups. It started its venture, its life as in 2002. So we are like 8 years old as Microsoft Ventures. That was the first name, and it was launched in 2012 when it was still early days in the startup ecosystem. InMobi was one of the unicorns by then, and SoftBank had. I was in InMobi at that time, and SoftBank had then done a huge round of funding in 2011 that validated the Indian market in the ad tech, and it was one of the first startups to kind of go global from India at that point of time. It was a cohort-based 3-month program, about 14 weeks or so. There was intensive program for coaching for mentors. Mentors used to come to the space in central Bangalore. First, we had a part of Microsoft Research, which is, if you know Bangalore, it is very close to Lavelle Road. And later on, it was like right across the road in the Ibis Hotel, right? So we had a good access to a co-working space. And this was very early days. So, a lot of the entrepreneurs were also young. So, the basics of sales, technology scaling, all of these things, we had to help them a lot more. So that they can get up and running and start achieving scale. At the same time, as learnings at Microsoft was that what are the things that startup needs. So it was in some sense a discovery phase both for startups, because they were also kind of finding their way and the ecosystem was also not that mature. And at the same time, both were kind of trying to figure out what is the right way to kind of run this program, because accelerators themselves were very new, and for India again, like it was like very emerging at that point of time. The program itself gave Azure credits up to 60K. Azure was also very new. Azure was started around the early 2000, end of the first, close to the end of the first decade. There were various kinds of other licenses that were given for Microsoft. So once these learnings were done, the next one was BizSpark, and this was like the most famous program that Microsoft had done till that point of time, and it was worldwide. So initially started with about $150 worth of credit per month for 3 years in Azure hosting. And for startups that scaled and you could use that much credits, we used to give about 60,000 credits per year. When BizSpark Plus came, it went to all the way to $500,000, which is about $500,000, right? Which is as big as a seed round. So pretty much all of your infrastructure cost was taken care of by BizSpark. And BizSpark gave you not just access to Azure credits, but it also gave you access to various kind of Microsoft licenses, such as Visual Studio, Office, Windows. There were also a lot of devices for dev and test, especially because a lot of startups were building mobile apps at that point of time. So there was like a device farm that you had access to. In addition to this, there were many classes or classroom kind of sessions that were held on various kinds of technologies, whether it was Windows, Linux, .NET, Node.js, PHP, Python. So BizSpark was fairly comprehensive in that sense, and it was one of the first programs that was done on a worldwide basis at that point of time. So then Microsoft Ventures got rebranded as Microsoft Accelerators, and one of the reasons for that was Microsoft also started a fund that started investing in startups. So one of the things I want to kind of make clear is that Microsoft for Startups and even the earlier avatars of Microsoft Accelerator never invested in the startups. I mean, we invested in startups both in terms of time, effort, credits, but we never invested in the startups in terms of giving them funding, right? So Microsoft Accelerator was based in the Microsoft Research Office, again on Lavelle Road in Bangalore. It was again a cohort-based system where we had about a 14 weeks intensive program. In addition to the tools that were available, there was intensive coaching from people in-house. So there was actual team on the ground where tech and business support was given, and it was by people who had done startups of their own. And many of them were had sold startup or exited startups, or had been startups that scaled really fast. So it was very, very useful support, because we could help startups avoid the mistakes that some of these mentors have made. Along with that, we had roots in the ecosystem, so we could kind of recruit mentors from the ecosystem for an intensive mentoring program. So we had people give sessions, how to do product placement, how to do your first few sales, how to run like a beta program, how to do fundraising. So we ran a series of mentoring programs that were useful. Again, in addition to the Azure credits which were given, and by now I think we had started to sunset the BizSpark program. So the amount of credits had reduced to around 250K. And what was added was deep dive technical sessions, where which continues to this day, where we actually talk to startups and we talk about technology choices, we talk about how to scale the system, we talk about DevOps, we talk about IoT, we talk about machine learning, AI. So we go deep into each of the aspects of the startup, and figure out what are the kind of skill sets that are required in the team, what are the things that are lacking, and then actually help the startups even sometimes augment and hire in certain in certain areas, as well as help them get the right team structure for growth. And having the right team structure is very important for a startup that is growing. For example, if you're initially, when your startup is really small, I think one set of engineers does everything from support to doing DevOps to doing integrations, especially if it's something to do with data, and burns out people really fast, and there is no specialization, right? So maybe The kind of advice we would give is that we would actually have a separate integration team that would kind of build tools as well as do the integration, and the product engineers can actually focus on the product features, right? At the same time, you can have, in some cases, pre-sales engineer that would actually do some custom deployment for specific kind of areas. And again, Microsoft Accelerator was both sorry, there's a typo here, but it had both B2B and B2C focus, and it was sector agnostic. So this ran for about 2015 to about 2018, where again there was a change in direction, which was a team that I'm part of now called Microsoft for Startups. And what it did was it expanded it worldwide and went deeper into all of the regions. For example, we were divided into eight or nine different regions. We had regions to start off with, like Canada, the US, the rest of Latin America, UK, Western Europe, Eastern Europe, the MENA region, which was Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia, and a region. Then we had the Greater China region, which included Japan, South Korea, and China. And then we had the rest of APAC, which was taken care by a different MD. And the structure was that we had, for each of these regions, we had a MD, which was a managing director for startups, and we had a CTO in residence who would actually do. So we had both the tech and business part, because when a startup is actually growing, the thing that you need to look at is, either you need somebody who can build, or you need somebody who can sell, and we needed people with expertise on both sides. So we ran multiple different programs at this point of time. Earlier it was like just focused on the mentoring and the physical co-working space. But what happened with Microsoft Startup One is became even more international. And startups looking to different regions, we could help them, and I'll talk a little bit more about that program called CoSell, which is part of this. But the flagship program that we had was a Scale Up. And what happened also that instead of having a focus on B2B or B2C, what we learned is, because of Microsoft's strengths, Microsoft has a bunch of consumer businesses, like for example, there's Bing, there's Windows, there's Surface laptops that we sell to companies. But what Microsoft's core strength is like business software, right? And Microsoft understands B2B really well. So at this point of time, the focus was on B2B. So there was a change in focus, and then we had the other program called Highway 200 Unicorns, which I'll talk a little bit about more. We also started the Breadth program, which was expanded the reach of our startups to much more earlier stage as well. And what we did was we felt that many of the non-profits also can take the learnings that we have from startups and look at social impact programs also. So we basically, from one program, we went to 4 different programs that we were running in parallel. And which again, the pilot would happen in like starting with Bangalore, then we would do India, and then we would kind of move it to the rest of the regions. So what I'll do now is I'll talk a little bit about each of these to give you context about what we do, and then what we can do is then I'll talk about the learnings from the journey. So the first program that we had was called Scale Up, right? And as I said in the earlier slide, the value that Microsoft brings to our portfolio is definitely worldwide scale, global support to help startups enter new markets, customer relationships. We already have a lot of Fortune 500 and medium and small business customers, so we kind of leverage those relationships for our startups and help them co-sell. We obviously have deep technical expertise in several areas, whether it's business software, whether it's machine learning AI, whether it's IoT. Even if you look from an industry perspective, right, whether it is healthcare, and healthcare its own regulation, or fintech, which has again its own resolution. And because it is spread, because of the combination of worldwide scale and local regulations that we know, the technical expertise plays part into this. For example, in the US, you have for healthcare HIPAA regulations, or for minors, you have the COPPA regulation, which is to prevent minors data getting exposed on in certain areas, for example in CRM, or you have the GDPR in Europe, right? So a combination of what we know about the local ecosystem with the customer relationships and the technical expertise for implementing those. So combination of these is what we kind of focus on, because that was, for in some sense, a secret sauce as compared to the other corporate accelerators, as compared to the government or the university accelerators that we. So this was the time when all of the learnings got solidified, and we actually kind of focused even more on taking lesser number of startups and actually focusing back on them, but with the international focus. And also we leveraged our sales team and global sellers, and gave them incentives to actually sell with our portfolio companies. And I'll tell how that helps Microsoft as well. And if you want to kind of do any kind of integrations or enter a different kind of markets to actually do channel sales, for example, then the partner ecosystem can also be leveraged, right, in addition to the sales team. So there are two parts to this model in scale up. One is the co-build, right? You get up to $120,000 of credits, which you can use for up to 2 years. You get Visual Studio, Enterprise Cloud, and various other benefits. You can read them from the screen. But what is most important is that you get 1:1 few workshops or coding events. You get 1:1 consultation, especially for the founders, to work through the vision that they want to build and kind of refine it, whether it is fundraising, whether it is implementing architecture. And we have multiple teams which I'll go on later, which help at various stages of the business, and from a very high, I would say, strategy level down to the implementation level. We have teams that actually help with each of these aspects. The second part is, once you build this, you want to sell it, right? So you get a dedicated startup engagement manager that helps you, connect with each of the sellers. So we have a team called the OCP, or One Commercial Partner, and that exists. That commercial organization exists in pretty much every country that Microsoft is in. So we connect. We help you kind of develop the collateral first, and we actually help you connect with the sellers, and then help those sellers actually use your collateral and sell to clients. For example, let's say you are a startup, and this is a real example, that is actually making chatbots, right, for e-commerce solution, and it is very easy for you to do say internationalization and also cater to a certain sector. So this startup actually had a specific product, and what we helped them is that we connected them to the team in Switzerland, and the team in Switzerland actually helped them connect with the customer. So what happened in this scenario is, when they made the sale, the startup actually got a referenceable customer in a completely new geography, which they could actually now use to expand their footprint. So hired a person to do that. But what our client, which is Microsoft client, also gained is that they were looking for a very specific solution which Microsoft didn't have, right? And the startup actually plugged in and kind of extended that solution. So it was really, really good for both the startup and Microsoft customers. And where Microsoft actually benefited was, because this solution was running on Azure, the amount of usage of Azure also went up, whether it was cognitive services or whether it was infrastructure as service. So it is like a win-win situation, right? It's a win for Microsoft, it's a win for our Microsoft customers, and it's a win for startups as well. So this is a sale that we do, and to incentivize sellers, what we do is, the startup doesn't have to pay a penny to Microsoft sellers. So any of the quota that we have for the Microsoft sellers, that is actually retired and paid by Microsoft itself, right? So it is a great way for startups to actually expand to newer markets and understand the nuance. And once they kind of have a foothold, they can expand in that market really well. So this is like the eligibility criteria, right? That you need to look at. You should offer an innovative technical solution, right? So we look at startups that are backed by technology and that support customers in their digital transformation. As I already said, that the focus should be B2B. It should be less than 7 years in existence and less than $25 million in total annual revenue. And it could be anything, whether it's a bootstrap or a Series A, B, or C. And though we focus on B2B, we do actually make exceptions for very promising B2C startups as well in this. And we have had a lot of success. Like, for example, a name that you might recognize is Udaan. Udaan was one of the startups that came out of the accelerator, and it has done magnificently. All of the infrastructure is on Azure. We also had Witty Parrot, that was that. We had Worksogo Labs, and a couple of startups such as Live.ai was acquired by Flipkart, which did natural language intelligence. And then Reverie Technologies was bought, if I remember right, by Geo, which was developing various kinds of natural language technologies. And these are currently a portfolio. This is focusing on the MENA region. For example, Atlan is in India. Intello Labs is in India. Baikia is in Pakistan. Shohos is in Bangladesh. We have Securency, which is in both UK and the Middle East in UAE. So we have this different set of startups, right? We also have Almenta and Pesca, which are based out of Egypt and also are expanding to Saudi Arabia and UAE. So this is like our MENA portfolio, but we have a portfolio across the world. But this should give a glimpse of the deep expertise. And if you see, all of them are in different sectors, right? We have natural language processing. We have Intello Labs that helps basically classify any kind of produce that is given by farmers to any kind of to industries, food processing industries and retail industry both. Then we have PSky, which actually is like the Paytm of Egypt. We have Almenta, which is in edutech. We have Baikia, which is like Baikia and Shohos are like Ola or Uber of their respective countries. We have Atlan, which builds a data science product for an enterprise setup, and where we have Securency, which looks at fintech startups. Which looks at the blockchain and other kinds of securitization of using of different assets using blockchain. Around this time, we also realized that many of these startups, especially in scale up, they are backed by founders. And one of the transitions that we have seen over a period of time is earlier we had inexperienced founders, but largely as the industry matured, both in terms of the services and the product, we saw that many of the founders which were working for companies such as Microsoft, Flipkart, or InMobi, or even others like Amazon, they actually left their jobs and started doing so. So we got a lot of startups in scale up with very, very experienced founders. But what was happening is India as a market was also developing, right? So we wanted to focus on underserved markets. So when we defined the tiers, I would say the tier one and the highest part of the tier are the three cities, right? Which is Bombay, Bangalore, and the NCR, which is National Capital Region, where most of the unicorns are based. And then you have the second tier where we have a decently developed services and product startup scene. For example, there's Chennai, there's Hyderabad, there's Pune. And then here the rest of India, right? You have lesser known startups coming out of places like Udupi, places like Jaipur in Rajasthan, and Ahmedabad, Raipur, Chandigarh, Kolkata. And we wanted to support them also. So what we did is we did the highway to 100 unicorns. So we said, where are the next 100 unicorns going to come from? And we focus on those underserved markets. We work with the local government and local ecosystem partners such as accelerators, incubators, startup, networking hubs. And we had an event in 6 physical on the ground event, and this was pre-COVID, in 6 different states: Maharashtra, in Pune, Kochi in Kerala, Hyderabad in Telangana, in Goa we had in Madgaon, and in Gujarat we had in Ahmedabad, and Rajasthan we had in Jaipur. And what we did, and I'll talk a little bit more about the program. And because the program was so successful, we have now expanded to 21 countries across Middle East, right? So we have countries that are lesser known in the startup ecosystem, but are upcoming, such as Bangladesh or Nepal or Laos or Brunei, They are actually now, we are expanding that model across Middle East, Southeast Asia, and the SAARC region. So as a part of this, what did we do is, when we expanded that, we had this Emergex competition, right? We reached out to all of the governments, we reached out to all of the ecosystem partners and said, hey, nominate your startups. And we had the Emergex competition where we selected the top startups from that region, and then they went through the intensive program. And this was in addition to the scale-up program that we ran. And we were just amazed. We were just amazed by the quality of startups that people did. And because many of the startups in these regions were not getting the love from VCs or private capital. Many of them got the unit economics really well, and they were very, very capital efficient, right? And they were across, and because the internet, they were across the spectrum. We had retail startups, we had startups doing very innovative deep tech work in AI. We had startups doing very, very cutting edge stuff in IoT, and it was amazing to see the quality of startups across the regions that we had in. So we basically gave them access to a year-long program, which I'll quickly talk about. So we had this tiered program, level 1, 2, and 3, where we focused on the top 3 in every region, and we give them more credits and more time and focus workshops and founder bootcamp, which we had in Goa, where we had about 60 startups from across the 6 states actually come, and we actually had sessions on everything from product to fundraising to legal to security to DevOps, the entire spectrum, right? And it was amazing to get the feedback and talk to the founders face to face. And luckily, we were just able to. We did it beginning of March, just before COVID hit really badly. So this was really fascinating, and this really worked well, both the Emergex and the post-event engagement. And in the and when COVID hit, what we did is we did a series of 13 seminars from legal implication of force majeure to building your own data warehouse to rolling out your own ML platform, and things like how to do like product positioning and marketing. So we did a series of monthly webinars to engage them. So we had a year-long engagement program for startups from this region because they needed a lot more help as compared to scale up. And we gave them a scale-up treatment in terms of deep dives as well, from both the CTO and the MD, Latika, who was my counterpart. The third different aspect that we felt where we could contribute is, over I think the 7-8 years, is many of the startups, the learning from the startups can be applied to social impact program, right? And we felt that we should do something in this sector. So we started with first Project Amplify, which I'll talk about. And once Project Amplify was successful as a pilot, we had the Global Social Entrepreneurship Program, which was worldwide, right? So quickly about Amplify. So Amplify is a social accelerator, which is a partnership not just by Microsoft but with Accenture. So Microsoft provides a technology and some amount of technical know-how as well as the Azure credits, and Accenture provides implementation support. So compared to many of the startups, many of the social sector startups were not very tech savvy, right? So I think we basically had to make a lot of investments, both from the Accenture side as well as Microsoft, in educating them about the impact of technology and actually digitizing many of the processes, whether it was healthcare, whether it was aquaculture and agriculture in certain aspects, or raising funds and in other aspects, and basically giving them the technical grounding for them to amplify the impact, and hence the name of the program was Amplify. So Microsoft and Accenture actually looked at amplifying that impact of technology, and we basically had 90 to 120 day engagement, but the engagement could go on almost up to a year, right? But the 90 to 20 day engagement was intensive, and this kind of mimicked the earlier Microsoft Accelerator program, because if you look at the the technological maturity of social entrepreneurs, it was a little behind. The rest of the ecosystem. And this was the engagement model that we had. So I won't go into deep because in sense of time. So I want to kind of give some time of question and answer. But Basically, we had, in addition to Microsoft research, in addition to Microsoft developers and India Development Center, we also had Microsoft IP, right? Whatever technologies were under research, we actually gave that IP in three modes. Either we could give it for free and make it open source. We could actually license it to the social entrepreneurs at a very, very nominal cost or at zero cost. And we retain the IP to commercialize it as well. Or we could also co-develop, right? We get our IP and the startup actually builds along with our IP, and then both Microsoft and the non-profit can actually co-invent based on the IP that is there. So this was a very unique model that we did with Microsoft Research as well. Cool. So when we talk about what the Microsoft ecosystem, as we kind of grew, what we realized is that we have to reach deeper and deeper inside Microsoft. I already talked about one commercial partners that does the co-sell and the selling part, but we also started working closely with Microsoft India, the India Development Center, and the Global Sales and Marketing Organization, which was GSMO, to both get help on the technology and cutting edge technology, and people who are actually working on the field in specific sectors, as well as people who are very well connected through the global sales and marketing into specific enterprises, right? Whether it was honing the presentation or whether it was making sure that the pitch is right. I think both these partners helped. M12 Ventures now has an office in India, and M12 Ventures actually invests in startup, and they are the people who actually put in the money. Microsoft Reactor is a community space where startups can come and interact with the rest of the ecosystem, especially the developer community. And then we have the developer relationships where we have different events. For example, there was an event focused on Python, where we presented how our different startups are actually using Python. Or we had a developer event on Azure where we demonstrated how different startups are using Azure. So basically, this helps the startup to engage with the community, to hire, to look at what's going on in the ecosystem. It gives them access to funding through M12 Ventures, through Microsoft India and one commercial partner. They are able to expand their sales network and channel sales as well. So we basically tapped into the Microsoft ecosystem for doing this, and this is something that kind of made us unique. And this is the learning for any of the corporate partners, that how they can leverage their own corporate ecosystem to actually dig deep and help the startups. Finally, we have the learnings from the journey so far. I know some of the learnings I've talked, and what led from humble beginnings, to having this different program that look at different aspects of the ecosystem and look to grow the ecosystem. So one of the things, as you have seen in the evolution, is we constantly evolve with the ecosystem, right? From a cohort-based intensive program, we moved to a free-flow program where we did not have a cohort-based. We like, for example, in the Scale-up program, there is no co-working space that is offered. I mean, we can offer it, but I mean that is very, very optional. And we have startups across India, right? So they cannot. We understand that they cannot maybe come to the facilities, and with that also, with the proliferation of the internet, it has become much easier, right, to actually do the mentoring also, right? So we do visit the startup. So rather than the startup coming to us, we used to go to the startup as well, and going and talking to them in their workplace actually give us a better sense of the dynamics of the startup, whether it is the equation between the co-founders, the equation between the tech team and the sales team, for example. And understanding that from our background actually helped me actually fix many of the issues before they become big problems. In terms of mentorship and handholding, what we did is we reached out deep into the ecosystem and got specific expert, whether it was in the founders bootcamp in the case of Highway to 100 Unicorns, or it was in mentorship in specific areas that we did for scale up. And we had experts from around the world who could help us, right? For example, the startup Securency, we got blockchain experts from both the UK and US to actually help them do that. So it went deep both into Microsoft and the ecosystem as well. And this is where we actually used the ecosystem, both the alumni and the ecosystem really well. For example, we had an alumni who was doing a lot of work with banks. And there was a very early stage startup that was coming into the program that just had to make their first sale. And what the alumni did was that it kind of helped them, get connected to the right people, make them understand the organization. Because especially in B2B, it is one of the most difficult part is trying to figure out what is the process and who is the right decision maker, right? And if that actually learning process short circuited, the sales cycle can move from a typical 6 to 9 months sometimes to right up to like 3 months, right? And that really helps. And basically, as I said, like startups, especially which are early stage or even growth, require two kinds of help. One is like sales and GTM, help me sell or help me build, and we have kind of attacked both of these programs very deeply. And we have applied, as the case of non-profits, we have taken all of the learnings from startups so far and we have applied it to non-profits, right? In many of the cases, we actually convince the non-profits to actually invest in technology, and once they invest in technology, they could reap the benefits and scale their systems, because many of the time they used to struggle with even simple things like providing support. Like for example, mental health startup used to have a telephone line where people could call in, and that was not very scalable. So we helped them build a chatbot and help them scale. And again, like I said, with we looked at underserved markets, right? Where is the next big thing or the next big startup or the next big idea going to come from, and which led to the creation of Highway to 100 Unicorns. So based on these learnings, where is the future? The future is basically, we're looking at going deep into creating solutions, package solutions, kind of again very early stages for various verticals, and then this is worldwide, whether it's healthcare, retail, open source, fintech, manufacturing. We also realize that startups that are larger require a different kind of attention, a different kind of help compared to early stage, right? So we're kind of focusing on those, and we're looking at top 100 startups and giving them a lot of help, whether it is in terms of technology, in terms of scaling, because the problems they have with scaling are very, very different from the problems which early stage startups have, right? And how to help them manage their team, improve their entire people focus. With and also, as I said, like now there's an international focus, but there's also regional engagement. So we engage with the local communities, but with an eye on how we can take that startup out of whichever region we are, whether we are in India, whether in UK, whether we are in LATAM, and take them to other parts of the world, right? For example, we had startups from India actually sell into, I give an example of Switzerland, and also very easily into Singapore and Southeast Asia. We also had helped startups sell into the Middle East. Also, we have a person on the ground to help with that. We are also looking at expanding our portfolio of benefits in partnership with third party, like for example, Stripe and Shopify. So talks are ongoing for that. And when it comes to benefits, earlier we had just Azure, right? Now we're looking at Azure. So now we have benefits in terms of Azure credits. We have access to the Power Platform. We have access to the GitHub Enterprise. But we're looking at how we can add access to Dynamics, how we can add access to LinkedIn. LinkedIn will help with both hiring and sales, help with the Power Platform and give them deeper expertise in Power Platform for automating, and then look at Bing Ads, which is like helping them actually reach out to a newer audience in those aspects. In terms of technical engagement, we have what we call as FTA or fast track access, where the actual team sits with the startup and helps them implement certain kinds of practices, for example, DevOps practices, or machine learning, improve their machine learning models. Then we have App Consult, which is like architectural consulting for very specific areas. For example, you need to kind of move to a different region, or you need to clone a region, because now you earlier had a customer in Middle East, but now you have a customer in say Europe, and what are the things that you need to do for GDPR? How do you clone the system? What are the things that you need to know in terms of encryption? What are the things that you need to know in terms of uptime? What are the kind of service level agreements that you need to have? So App Consult look at all of these. And then we have the ATA, which is Azure technical team that helps with the initial handholding on the technical side. So there is one person on the business side and one person on the technical side. They have constantly allies with different teams in the Microsoft ecosystem. So this is what is happening. This has been our journey, and with that I'll stop here and take any questions that you guys have.
Thank you, Vinayak. I think that was wonderful. I think before we, open the floor to the audience, I have two quick questions for you, Vinayak. So we have seen the journey from a mentorship support to actually credit support to investing into the startup. The journey has been long and great learnings. So among the audience, we also have uh, academic supported incubators, and they're soon getting into accelerator programs, or a few of them are already running accelerator programs. So according to you, what would be like a success metric for an accelerator program? Maybe two, three, five parameters, irrespective of a corporate accelerator or an government supported accelerator. That is the first question. And second question is, to achieve that, what would be the team strength in terms of the domain expertise, or in terms of the management, or maybe in terms of size or so? I think it would be great to know.
Cool. So I'll take the first question first. So in terms of success metrics, I think it has to all be focused on the growth of the startups. So many people will say, you should look at funding, but I would say don't look at funding, but look at the growth in terms of revenue that you're getting. The second metric I would see is that, what is the huge amount of technology differentiator that you have, because even if you look at non-profits, right? If they need to really scale, for example, like we were helping a mental health startup in the social impact sector to scale, and you can't have people calling phone lines. So can you have like a chat bot? Can you have different levels of engagement? Like, can people reach out? Can they schedule? So how can technology be used to leverage, right? So one is like, how do you do the technology enablement? On the sales side, I would say, how fast is the revenue increasing? And on the product side, how is the product mix changing to attack the market, right? I would say metrics have to be on each front, right? On sales, on product, and on technology.
Right. I think that was wonderful. Anything on the second part of the question?
Can you repeat the second part again?
Yeah. So these are the metrics that you told. So to achieve this, we might need to strengthen our team. So
Yeah,
what
yeah.
should be the team strength?
Team strength. Okay, so I think the minimum, I would say the MVP or the minimum viable team that you need to have is somebody who can help on the business side, who has a background in product, who has a background in product and business, whether it is sales, whether it's marketing, or and fundraising. And on the other side, somebody who has a background in technology, right? So this structure, as I said, also evolved, right? Initially, the structure was not there in place in Microsoft as well, but somebody on the technology side who has been there, done that with startups, and can actually warn you of the typical mistakes you do on the technology side. And again, why I keep on emphasizing on technology is because at some point, right, to kind of achieve some kind of scale and impact, you will actually use technology, right? So the earlier that you bake it into the process, the easier it is to help. So somebody who has good understanding of technology and product and has a background in startup, either is a founder or either is a technical founder or has worked in a growth stage startup, ideally, or is sometimes even somebody who's worked on a large in a large organization, but on a variety of roles, so that you have kind of sectoral coverage depending on what sector you're looking at. And third thing is, you need somebody who can program manage, right? You need somebody who can help the startup actually, things like apply, help them, connect to different kinds of ecosystem partners. For example, let's say you have a specific question related to technology, but the technical person cannot self-solve it. Do you have a back roster of mentors who can help? And that program manager, what he or she does is that he or she actually works with both the business and a technology counterpart to give them access to the space. So the curation in some sense is done by either the business or the technology person, but the connection and making sure that the startups get the help, and uh, making sure the program runs smoothly is actually done by the program manager. So the program manager also is very critical, because they also uh, understand the startup and what are their pain points and their growth stage really well. So somebody who's worked in either project management or has worked on the business side actually can do a very good job at program management. So I think if you have these three people, you're good. Like, just to give an example of ourselves, we have five people in our team. That's all the team is, right? Just five people. We're covering 16 countries and across all sector, right? We have one program manager for highway. We have one program manager for scale up. We have one program manager for the social impact, and then we have the MD who actually takes care of the business fundraising and go to market, and then you have me who as city investment takes care of product and tech, right? So that is how we have kind of divided it. Still, I feel that this is a good combination that we have arrived at. That I feel that this is a good structure that can scale, and I've seen talk to other accelerators, whether it's corporate or government. I feel that this kind of structure works really well.
Right. Yeah, I think
So,
thank you for this.
someone to build, someone to sell, and somebody to help connect with different aspects, right? Because you cannot have all the expertise in house. So how do you connect the startups to a larger set of people? And that is what program management. So this is like the minimum. So build, sell, connect.
Perfect. I think that's wonderful. Open to audience. They can either raise a hand or type it in the questions tab. We will take it up from there directly.
So I see some questions in the live chat. Should I directly take them?
Yeah, you can. Is it on your direct chat? Is it?
Yeah. So I can see in the live chat, Abhi R has asked a question.
No.
Very impressive.
So I think that's
Yeah.
for the previous session.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, because it's an hour ago.
Oh yeah, it's an hour ago. Yeah. So Abhi R is asking, how do you manage 16
Right.
countries? Any insights? It is tough because I think it takes a lot of time to. So one of the things that helps actually Microsoft, because Microsoft has a very wide portfolio of both products and also spread across countries. So we leverage into connecting the local teams. But what we also do is we don't stop at that. We try to find the local ecosystem partners. Accelerators, for example, are a great way. We also connect with the academic institutions. We connect with non-profits there. So it takes a bit of time. And Highwork was really helpful for us to kind of establish roots there. And also, some of the bigger startups will actually go into scale up, right? But some of the newer startups can actually stay with Highway. So it is tough to manage, and what we felt was, in some sense, you need to understand the local presence also. So what we did is, initially the entire MENA, which is like Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia, MENA SAARC region was one. So we hired somebody in the Middle East region who understood the local culture, who understood the local ecosystem, who was there on the ground talking to people, meeting them, and helping them. So we actually had a person on the ground who actually helped us do that. And technology helps, like, we talk through teams and startups that have expanded. We actually use our alumni also to connect with the local ecosystem. So once we had the local ecosystem connects, actually they started sending us startups really well, and we kind of grew that relationship. Again, it's a lot of work. Again, it's a really small team for the amount of work we do. So it is completely startup based. We actually do a small pilot typically in India, and once that pilot works, we actually expand it. Right, like Amplify was an example. We did a small pilot along with Accenture that worked really well. So we kind of launched on a global scale in GCEP. Highway also worked really well with 6 governments that we worked with, states in India, and then now we're expanding to different countries. So we worked. We also worked with partners like Gen. So we connected with external entities also who had their own ecosystem connects. That also helped. And connecting with the government also helped, because governments typically have a much wider range of people that they can connect to. So it was very difficult to manage because, I mean, the team is small, but we somehow were able to do it because we staggered and planned really well. That is where I think we really have good program managers help to do that. The next question is by Manisha Arya. Is there any possibility to collaborate with Microsoft Accelerator? The answer is yes. We can collaborate in both in terms of credits, and also I think now I talked about the OCP team. The OCTV team also has their own accelerator that is looking at specific sectors as well. So yeah, you can get in touch with my professional email address, and then then we can figure out what kind of partnership kind of makes sense based on what you want, and how we can collaborate. There are many ways of collaborating on technology, on sourcing startups, on helping startups, on doing programs, on doing events. Yeah. Are you open to partner on domain execution with other accelerators in India? Absolutely. I mean, we actually do work with many other accelerators. In fact, many of our program managers and both Latika, who is the MD, and me personally actually, have connected with many startup accelerators. In fact, right after this call, we are talking to somebody from NetApp Accelerator, and we look at their startups. We also give them deal flow. So there are many startups, not especially in the corporate sector, want to because they get access to different sets of networks. Actually connect. For example, let's say a startup is in the space of retail, right? We would probably refer them to Target or refer them to Flipkart, and similarly Flipkart would connect them to us. So we do work with a lot of accelerators. So it's not like a competition. These are my startups and my precious, and I will not share with them. We actually do work with many of the corporate accelerators as well as the government accelerators as well. So we get a lot of startups where both the ecosystem partners, like for example, with Head Start, which is a worldwide, now a worldwide organization that is there in more than 25 plus cities in India and in 3 or 4 more countries as well. We work with them, which is again a non-profit. We do work with educational accelerators. I talked about CIE, for example, right? CIE actually sent many of the startups for the highway program. Similarly, we had T-Hub in Hyderabad, where we connected with those T-Hub, and T-Hub also sent many of the startups for the Emergix program. So there is a lot of collaboration, lots of cross-pollination, because at the end of the day, we want to grow the ecosystem, because if the ecosystem grows, we all benefit. And that has been the biggest part of the learning, that how do you keep on giving back to the ecosystem, because the more you kind of put in the ecosystem, the more the ecosystem gives you back. Which was also one of the reasons, why I signed up for this webinar as well, right? To reach out to more people, look at more collaborations. Both, we can help other accelerators and startups, and other accelerators can also send some of the better startups and well-doing startups in which are growing to us, especially in the B2B space.
Great. Yeah. Do we have more questions? Great. So I think Vinayak was well covered the journey as well as the learning. I think we have a lot to learn in terms of the scale that you have reached, in terms of the operations that you have made. Thank you so much for taking out time for this session. It was really insightful and a deep learning session. Thank you so much. Thank you, participants, for taking our time for this. We will see you again in the second half today. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can always tweet at me or send me an email, either on my personal or professional IDs. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you so much.